Parents concerned over critical race theory in one Texas school district aren't going to like this. A recent report revealing the Fort Worth Independent School District is spending more than $2 million on diversity consultants, with one chief equity officer earning more than $200,000. But while they spend big bucks on race-based curriculum, many schools in the district are falling behind when it comes to reading and comprehension. How about way behind? Erika Sanzi from the group Parents Defending Education joins us now to discuss. I'm sure you know this already, Erika, but only 26% of the Fort Worth Independent Schools third graders read on reading level, grade level, but yet we're spending all this money on diversity training.
Yeah, so Fort Worth was already struggling with its literacy and its math scores before the pandemic. So the fact that they have escalated their spending on what they call equity and excellence to over $2 million is a huge concern. We've seen a major plunge in their academic achievement since the beginning of COVID, and yet we see, again, over $2 million being spent. And what I find sort of fascinating but also very sad is that they talk a lot about equity and excellence and the need for children to feel like they belong. And I can't imagine in a more basic way and fundamental way to help children feel that way than to ensure that they can read on grade level and that they are strong readers for the rest of their lives.
So you formed this grassroots organization. What prompted it?
Well, what prompted it was our president and founder, who had been following free speech concerns on college campuses, began to realize that we were seeing in K-12 a huge sort of move away from diversity of viewpoint towards activism in the classroom and almost bringing an orthodoxy into the school where disagreement was not only not allowed, but also sometimes considered to be hateful. So what we are working against is activism in the classroom, the compelled speech, forcing students and staff to say that they believe things that they don't, and also bringing political ideologies into the classroom and, again, squashing any free debate or diversity of viewpoint by students and staff.
Yeah, you want to raise a well-educated kid. You're not doing it that way. You also point out that a lot of this leaves kids depressed. They hear about all this horror in society and things like that, and they're not learning some of the basics. This kind of weighs on kids.
Yeah, it does. I mean, certainly there are very robust conversations to be had about, complex issues facing our society that include racial justice and other topics. So no one is saying that there's no place for them in school, but I do think that what we've seen is a lot of developmentally inappropriate materials being brought to children who are way too young to understand them. So they feel like they're being shamed for their skin color, shamed because they were born male, shamed because, they don't know what it means to be asked about their pronouns in the 4th and 5th grade. So again, the focus has really shifted, unfortunately, in schools towards an ideology. And again, we are seeing schools where the vast majority of students don't even read on grade level. And so to me, if there were ever a more of an issue that defined equity, it would be ensuring that children know how to read. And instead what we hear is schools talking about racial literacy, but we hear way too little from these activists about actual literacy.
30 seconds. Now you've identified the problem, you've brought it forward, you're talking about it. What's your plan of action to change it?
Well, one of the things that we're doing is helping parents to understand that when they feel in their gut like something is wrong, they need to know that they're not crazy. And they also need to know that people are going to call them names when they push back, because that's what they do. There is no substantive argument really to be made against the concerns that people are raising, so instead they call them names. And then we give them the tools, whether it's just to gain the confidence to have a meeting with a principal, to go speak at a school board meeting, to learn how to file a public records request if they're not getting answers. And that's how we learned that they were spending over $2 million in this district, is because a local media outlet went digging for information and they found it. And they could be, again, they're spending $2 million, over $800,000 just on staffing up this program. That would bring reading interventionists and reading specialists into the district in huge numbers.
Yeah, put these clips up when you go to these board meetings, hear the responses, and then you'll actually change some things. Erika Sanzi with Parents Defending Education. You're the director there of outreach. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Brian.
Meanwhile, we reached out to the Fort Worth Independent School District for a statement, have not heard back, but we just might.